Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum, and good morning in Germany. Today's our speaker is Judith Otter from Germany. I'm very impressed with Judith's background. She has done a bachelor's in cultural studies, and she has done master's in international peace international peace and conflict before doing midwifery. And then she became midwife. From 2016 to 2019, Judith did her midwifery. And her midwifery journey, I must say, has a very impressive background from peace and conflict to cultural study. And that's why Judith is currently serving as the international delegate for German Midwives Association. I heard Judith in the International Confederation of Midwives, and I was so impressed the way she articulated what the German midwives and her groups and the teams are doing in the climate change and climate awareness. So when I came back, I said, Judith is someone who must speak with our group. Today, I would like to welcome you all. This is a month on today's 2nd, and after 2 days on 5th of May, we are celebrating International Day of Midwives. So happy IDM. And yes, this is the way we are thriving and transforming. So happy day today, and please join the session and enjoy. You can write questions, what Zara has sent you, the link, and welcome to you, Judith. Over to you, Judith.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, good afternoon, everyone, dear colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to speak about the implications of climate change for midwifery, which is a very large and complex topic, and I will try to seize it within this presentation. So first of all, I would like to give, now we're ready. So on the second slide, you can see the structure of my presentation. Just to give you an overview, I will talk about generally the health risks of climate change for pregnant people and newborns. I will then go into the position statement of the International Confederation of Midwives, and also take up the call that the ICM published early this year to reduce carbon emissions. And then as a last part of my presentation, I'm going to talk about a group that we have formed here in Germany, which is called Midwives for Future, as well as an interdisciplinary working group working towards measures to take within gynecology, but also midwifery and the health of newborns. So I will start with health risks for pregnant people and newborns. Just the next slide. Yes, so worldwide extreme weather events, heat waves and air pollution, water contamination, and related diseases are increasing because of climate change. And the impacts of these factors are increased during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. This is what a lot of studies have already shown. And it also increases the impact on for newborns and young children. So climate change has really the potential to be the greatest health challenge of the century. And this applies worldwide in more extremes and less extremes, I suppose. Next slide. Also, it's important for me to mention that I'm of course speaking from a German perspective, being German myself and living here. And it is important for me to state that, of course, Germany is part of the global north, where only 19% of the world's population lives, and that those 19% that Germany is part of is responsible for 92% of carbon emissions worldwide. So here in Germany, we count to the main drivers of climate change, compared to Pakistan, a country that produces less than 1% of the world's carbon footprint, and yet is suffering the biggest consequences of climate change. I think it's number 5 of the countries suffering the most worldwide. Yeah, just to give you the perspective again. So next on the next slide, you can see especially the associated risks with for pregnant women who are exposed to heat, extreme heat. So worldwide studies have indicated that the physical implications for reproductive health are a shortened duration of pregnancy. It has shown that we have a lot more preterm birth happening, low birth weights, stillbirths, and even effects on brain development. Next slide, please. Also, we have vector-borne infectious diseases that affect embryonic development that are increasing depending on where in the world you are, but it's increasing worldwide. And next slide, we know that studies have shown that fine dust particles reach the fetus via the placenta and umbilical cord, and can also have an effect on various organs, including the brain. And this is already happening during pregnancy, and also inflammatory and DNA or cell damaging processes already occur intrauterine due to climate change effects. Looking at the last slide, the FIGO, the International Federation of Gynecology and Obstetrics, they summarize that the health impacts of our global climate crisis on maternal and child health can no longer be ignored. And this is something that the International Confederation of Midwives has also taken up. So if we move to the next slide, we're already moved to my second point. So it was back in 2014 already that the International Confederation of Midwives published a position statement on the impacts of climate change. And that position paper was last revised in 2021 and is currently being under revision again. And just for you to know, I don't know how many of you know about the International Confederation of Midwives. The abbreviation is ICM, and they currently represent over 136 midwives associations in 117 countries. So ICM is really an accredited non-governmental organization and has a large geographic scope and networks in sexual, reproductive, maternal, newborn, and child health and rights. Just as a background information. So if we move to the next slide, please. Sorry, no, one before. I missed that. Yeah, thank you. So the ICM position paper, within the paper, the ICM calls for the midwifery profession to recognize the importance of the health risks posed by the climate crisis and to actively work against it. They also emphasize that midwives have an important role to play in influencing social change to counteract climate change and contribute to sustainability. This is something that I will go more into detail further in my presentation to show how that is happening or can happen. And in summary, the position paper formulates recommendations for action for the member associations at an individual, a political, and an educational level. So if we look at the next slide, we are on the individual level. We can summarize that the ICM describes the importance of midwives playing an active role in educating expectant families about sustainable action as role models for climate protection. They work very closely with families, so they have a very unique position in educating families. On the next slide, I will just it's a summary of the political level. So from a political point of view, the ICM encourages midwives to make political demands on society and politics, to strive for participation at all levels. And if we look at the educational level on the next slide, then it's about midwives including the issue of the health effects of climate change in their curricula and to drive research on it. I don't know, this is already happening in Germany. It's still quite small in relation to other topics, but I do know quite a number of midwives by now who are doing a lot of research on this topic. Okay, so I'm moving on to my third point, which is the ICM call for decisive measures to reduce carbon emissions. So just recently, I feel like since the last Congress, the last ICM Congress in June in 2023, the topic of climate change has also has been moved more into focus within the International Confederation of Midwives as well. So this is also why in this year's Day of the Midwife, International Day of the Midwife, the topic is about the central role that midwives play in for climate solutions. And just recently, so in early 2024, the ICM published an open letter in which they urge world leaders to come together for decisive climate action and to significantly lower carbon emissions. So, in the letter, the ICM speaks about the importance of investing in continuity of midwife-led care models as a key to lowering carbon emissions. You can stay on the slide before, thank you, Sarah. And what they especially point out is the critical role that midwives can play during the climate crisis. Okay, next slide, please. So what the ICM points out is that they see that investing in a continuity model of midwife-led care, which is really the care provided to people during pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum time, as a key factor to lowering carbon emissions, and they elaborate on how that looks like. So on the next slide, I tried to summarize a little bit how they what aspects they focused on in their call, in their letter. And so they argue, for example, that midwives work in communities in a lot of cases, not always, but they work in communities, and that means that when midwives often offer their services during the whole continuum of pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum within community settings, and usually with a limited need to travel for distances, although This very much depends on the country and on the region, of course. And what is clear, however, is that because of working closely in and with communities, midwives gain also a deeper understanding of the context and are often able to give advice on environmentally sustainable behaviors to the families. And often the midwives even live in the communities themselves, so they're very much aware of the issues and have very good relationships. And trust plays a really big role here, which I will come back to later. And then as a second point, the ICM mentions the use of fewer resources in the short and long term by implementing continuity model of midwife-led care. And this has two benefits, so twofold benefits. So first of all, the health system resources are used responsibly, meaning that specialized medical health care that also is, needs more technologies, needs more intervention and so on, is really only reserved for women and babies who truly need it, because a midwife is able to when they offer care to families, they are able to differentiate, is this a family, is this a woman, is this a baby that needs specialized care or not? And then the second benefit is that if we have a continuity model of midwife-led care, it also increases the rates of normal birth across a population. And that again reduces the amount of medical waste produced and the costs of unnecessary intervention and use of technologies. So, and this even while also reducing the burden of morbidities for women and newborns associated with unnecessary interventions. So this is actually a third benefit. And as a third aspect, the ICM argues that the continuity model of midwife-led care increases breastfeeding rates. And if we assume that midwives take care of women after birth, then it helps increase breastfeeding rates and it reduces the use of formula. And then again, the infant formula industry has an enormous carbon footprint, including the fuel required to transport, process, and prepare formula for a baby, and then of course also increasing breastfeeding rates is a key for improving the health of women and babies. Right. So the fourth point is midwives are a trusted source of information. And if we move on to the next slide, you can see that among the various professional groups, healthcare professionals, first and foremost, nurses and midwives. So it says nurses, but midwives are included in that group, have the highest levels of trust from the population worldwide. And if we move on, it is a very unique role that midwives play in the biographies of people, or can play. So as midwives, we accompany people in the biographical and significant phase of starting a family. And this is really a very unique moment in the life of most people. And therefore, it's an ideal moment to change habits. So here again, the midwife has the potential to educate the family on lifestyle, consumption, and nutrition. And she's usually a person that gains a lot of trust from the community, from the family that she provides care to. And yeah, I would even say that no other healthcare profession is as close to families as midwives are. They attend the families at home. They're very close, close to them usually if it's a continuous model of care that they're able to provide. On the next slide, we move back to my little structure. So we have a last aspect that the ICM raises in their letter, and it's that midwives are first responders to the climate crisis. So they say that during climate events, a community-based midwives is able to reach a lot more quickly affected communities to provide reproductive and maternal health services. And then also midwives are an effective network through which information and supplies and medication can be distributed during a climate crisis. Okay. So we're moving on to the last part of my presentation already. So on the next slide, please. Sarah, can you please change slides? I will start with the last part of my presentation. So I would like next. Yes, and two more, please. And one more. Great, thank you so much. So for the last part of my presentation, I will talk about specific measures that midwives in Germany are involved in. And this is what Rafat has also mentioned in her when she introduced me in the beginning. This is something I would like to share. It's more on a theoretical level of information and prevention regarding climate change. But you can move on to the next one. That's fine. But I think it's still interesting to share. And so we have to explain a bit more in detail. We have a German Climate Change and Health Alliance that is called KLUG e.V. And it was founded in 2017 and is a network of individuals, organizations, and associations from the entire health sector. So their mission is to educate people about the health impacts of the climate crisis, but also to empower healthcare professionals to become actors in the transformation towards a more climate neutral society. This is their intention. And when we move on to the next slide, you may have heard, and next slide, please. Thank you. You may have heard of Health for Future or Fridays for Future. It's a really big worldwide movement of demonstration and protest for climate change. And Health for Future was initiated by KLUG, the German Climate and Health Alliance, in 2019, and Health for Future is part of that global movement, Fridays for Future, that you might have heard about before. And then in Germany, so on the next slide, you can see that Health for Future is like a subgroup, or like more like an activist movement within the German Climate and Health Alliance. And there are different groups from the health sector that are active. For example, they're called psychologists for future, or psychotherapists for physiotherapists for future, and gynecologists for future. So we also wanted a group for midwives. And so as a subgroup of Health for Future, a group of midwifery colleagues and I founded Midwives for Future. That was almost 2 years ago. And since February 2023, we are organized as an official working group within the Health for Future and Klug structure. So Midwives for Future is a nationwide association of midwives who are committed to climate-sensitive healthcare in midwifery. And the focus lies on different topics. So there's, again, smaller subgroups within the bigger group, and focuses are climate-sensitive healthcare, knowledge, research, and teaching, and also the impact on politics and society and economy. Okay. And then on the next slide, so next to Midwives for Future, there has also formed an interdisciplinary working group that was initiated about 1 year ago, and it's called All Around Birth, with pediatricians, gynecologists, and midwives who have published a joint position paper on climate change and maternal pre- and postnatal health. And this paper was supported and signed. You can see that on the next slide. By, of course, the German Alliance for Climate and Health, but also by the German Midwives Association, the German Association for Midwifery Science, the German Society for Gynecology and Obstetrics, and many others. So it was very well supported. And yeah, so at this point, it's still in the making. It's still growing, but it's something that we've achieved during those last 1 to 2 years. And yes, with this, I'm already at the end of my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to your questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judith. It was a wonderful presentation, and I was really looking forward. In Pakistan, in the hot season, 1 centigrade increases the risk of 5% more premature birth, and that is huge. I'm glad that the university where Zera, Yasmin, and and others were joined from there, the university has decided to go for carbon free by 2030. So we have removed all the plastics and every equipment. We are on the paper bags, and this is the way the awareness is creating. But as a midwife, 3 days back when I was hearing this report, that 1 centigrade increase, the risk for premature births are 5% high, and that is quite alarming. So you have really raised awareness, and 2 of the students who are masters, completed masters, they did climate change and their impact on maternity care with the midwife and women, especially in the nutrition perspective and midwifery care. So hopefully now it's ICM, they can present in ICM upcoming Congress. So this was very, very important session, and taking time for this kind of session is very important. I have one question, and then Yasmin can ask. Can you give some more detail about your working group, how it's functioning, like how it's working, and what are the goals? You have said goals is education, but is there any website? How have you come up with this working group?
Thank you. So the working group is we have a meeting at I think every second month. We meet once, all of us, all of the sub working groups, let's say, and in between those bigger meetings, the smaller groups meet and write on papers or exchange, or what has been a big topic is also creating trainings for midwives to give more information on prevention and on how to counsel families, especially here in Germany. I think the biggest climate issue that we do have and sense is heat, is the exposure of heat. And it applies to taking care of the families and telling them about it, but also, of course, training midwives, how can they protect themselves during their work at clinics, but also during their work in the community. So so this is kind of the structure, and it's all voluntarily. The most of the midwives who are involved in the working groups, they all work there in their free time for this topic. And I think a big topic now was the joint position paper with the gynecologists and the pediatricians. And now that is finished. So the next project is a position paper that is only written by midwives and for midwifery topics. We meet online, we don't meet live, and we also try to use the conferences and congresses that are taking place in Germany around midwifery to place this topic of climate change and midwifery.
Thank you so much, Judith.
Over to you, Ms. Yasmin.
Thank you, Dr. Rafat. Thank you, Judith. I think it's a wonderful presentation. And I'm so happy that you highlighted the importance of midwives in addressing climate change and crisis situation. So for the audience, you know that International Day of Midwife is celebrated on May 5th every year. And you know that this year, the theme is Sustainable Midwifery, Caring for Tomorrow's World. And I think so, Judith, your topic is wonderfully connected with the theme this year. So thank you so much for highlighting, and I was very happy to learn that how Germany midwives have their own alliance, and they are working so smartly on the climate change and climate crisis. One of the wonderful point that I really liked from your presentation was about veracity index. And I was very happy to know that the nurses are the ones who are trusted more, and they were high in the list. So thank you so much for sharing all those the solutions and everything. I have just one question that I have received, that one of the audience person in the audience have asked that they were he just commented about the alliance and the work that you are doing, but they just wanted to know that what is your opinion that in what ways can midwife advocate for policies and practices that support environmental health and climate justice, especially in terms of developing countries? So over to you, Judith.
Thank you. I really want to highlight that I'm not an expert concerning countries in the global south. And I think it's very important to differentiate, because I am German and I come from this different background, and I don't want to put my opinion on countries from the global south. So I'm struggling with giving advice in that direction, because I don't think it's my position at all to advise or give advice, because I'm not knowledgeable enough, and I have not lived in those contexts. So what I can say from Germany is that we what we try is to really position this topic in every possible way. So of course, we try to inform midwives on how they can accompany women and how they can raise that issue of climate change in their one-on-one contact. So when they take care of families during pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum, and we train midwives to give advice in that area. And then also, as I've mentioned before, we try to place the topic in public events such as midwifery congresses or conferences. And also within the German Midwives Association, it has been a topic that has been growing now. And it's just starting to take more steps. So the German Midwives Association is part of the German Health and Climate Alliance, for example. So we're supporting this bigger alliance for health professionals financially in a way that we can, and then on a political level, it's always difficult, right? It's how do you reach politicians? But this is something that we really took up on our German Midwifery Congress as well last year. So we invited politicians and we invited experts on climate change and health risks, and we had them give speeches, and then we had panel discussions. So I think this is the best way to try to invite politicians and experts of the field, and then organize discussions. This is my response. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you so much for your responding to this. I know it's a difficult question, talking about the advocacy and getting midwives involved at the policy level is always very challenging. But I think so, little steps could make a big difference, definitely. We have second question from the audience. Thank you, Karen, for posting that question. She's asking what areas of research are currently lacking and need attention to better understand and combat the impacts of climate change on premature birth. So any opinion about that?
Thank you so much for the question. Very valuable and important. I have to admit, I don't have the best overview on when it comes to research. I know that in Germany, a big topic is really the impacts on pregnancy. And also sorry, I lost the word now. On newborns, of course. And I think it's still a topic that has been researched very little. So if there's an interest in doing research on this whole complex topic of the impacts of climate change on health risks, on health of newborns, then I think there's still a lot to research on, and you can find quite some studies, but it's still I think it's still a topic that has a lot of possibilities and fields, and to go more into detail into aspects, but the very I cannot really tell you about specific aspects that need more attention. I think the whole topic needs a lot of attention, and if there's people who are willing to do research on it, it's great. We need everyone. Yeah,
you're right, Judith. The scope is there, and definitely there is many things to research. So I agree with you. Okay, so the next question is that, I just would like to ask myself that, you were talking about the alliance, and you were talking that, how midwives are playing, are the agent of change in the face of climate crisis. So I just wanted to ask you that what challenges did you face when you started this alliance and when they were the change agents? So could you just share some of the challenges?
Thank you. so the alliance was founded a long time ago, and it's not an alliance that I was involved in founding, but we started the Midwives for Future group about 2 years ago, and I think what was and still is challenging is to receive enough support also from other midwives or other professions. Also the collaboration with pediatricians and gynecologists is always a tricky one. I'm sure you know about it from your own countries, midwives and these professional groups. It's a tricky part to collaborate, but we thought it was really important to work together on this topic, because it is a topic that concerns all of our professions, and we need to work together. And I think this is also something very crucial that climate change shows us, is that we really have to collaborate and work together. And this can be very rewarding, and it is a challenging thing to do at the same time. I think this is what I would say.
Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to see like if there are more questions. I think so people are sending me more questions. There is one question that that how climate change is decreasing the duration of pregnancy, which leads to the preterm and low birth weight babies. This is a question. I think this is a very theoretical question, but if you just would like to share your opinion that how the climate crisis is responsible for the preterm and the low birth weight babies.
Yeah, that's that's going a lot into detail, and still it's and I have to really mention, I'm not an expert. I have not studied this particular topic. It's really something that is dear to my heart, and I like to provide the information to as many people as possible. And so I cannot tell you exactly how it is related, how heat exposure relates to a shorter duration of pregnancy or preterm births. But what I understand, or what I understood from what I read, is that it does cause a lot of stress to the system. I mean, pregnancies already can be stressful for the health system. And then if you're exposed to heat and you do not have the possibility to cool down regularly, maybe you don't even live in a place where it's possible to have a cool space to sleep, for example, but also to take rest during the day. I think it's really extra stress to your body, and your body during pregnancy will respond a lot more delicately than when you were not pregnant. This is the answer I can give, and it's not scientific. So,
but I agree that there is a lot of changes the body is going when you are pregnant, and definitely thermoregulation must have some role. So agree with you. So Judith, we come to our last question asked by our professor Salima. So she asked that how midwife may face when they work in a non-healthcare setting, such as many midwives are in schools working as school nurses. How do you see their role in climate change on school children's health?
You mean when midwives work at schools?
School, yeah. How they could contribute, in terms of children's health who are in the school. What do you think? What is your opinion?
Well, I think they have a very vital role at this place, because first of all, they are very in close contact to the children, so they usually have good relationships to the children. And I think it's vital to already inform children on how to, well, for many aspects. So one would be to how to protect themselves from heat, like what measures they can take that they really, focus on being hydrated and being in the shade at certain hours, things like that, very simple things. But also on their lifestyle in terms of consumption, maybe. Also, deciding whether to buy packaged things or not. I mean, those are small steps, but I think children especially are very open to what we tell them, what we teach them, and especially when we are able to make that connection to nature and to explain to them that a certain habit or a certain the way you treat nature is having a big impact. And I mean, at the same time, I find it a bit difficult to tell that to a person who teaches at a Pakistani school. I think it's a lot more important that in Germany we do that, and still it's a global issue, pollution and air pollution especially. And I think as a teacher at a school, you have a very you're a role model yourself. So I think it's very important to show and to live what you teach. And if this is a climate friendly way, then I think it's fantastic and can be very impactful.
Thank you, Judith. That brings us to the conclusion of today's session. On behalf of Aga Khan University Outreach and Policy Unit, I just would like to extend my sincere gratitude for your presentation. I think so this is the need of time. And nurses, midwife, this is the new field of work that we all have to take up, because this is the need of time. I just would like to conclude the session by saying that midwives play a crucial role in addressing the multi-challenges posed by climate change. Their expertise in maternal and newborn care position them as a frontline responders in increasingly frequent natural disasters and health emergencies led by climate shifts. Beyond immediate crisis responses, midwives advocate for sustainable practices in healthcare delivery, promoting eco-friendly birthing options and reducing carbon footprints. So thank you so much, Judith. I just would like to say thank you, audience. Today, we could see that more than 70 people have joined us for this wonderful session. So once again, thank you so much. And audience, stay tuned with us. We will bring more, the webinars for you. And happy International Midwife Days to all of you. Thank you so very much.